Well, when you discuss governance systems, there are two issues to look out for. One is form or appearance, and then the other is substance. Over time, commentaries on leadership in Africa has focused on the form and not the substance. What is the form? The form is the rituals or things you call your democracy. For instance, we've had 7 general elections between 1999 and now that produced 5 presidents, including the incumbent. You also see what is happening in Liberia, that people are celebrating George Weah for quote-unquote peaceful transition. And in my analysis, that is, you're focusing your energy on the form and not on the substance. What you are celebrating in Liberia today as peaceful transition, Nigerians also had that kind of discussion in 2015. And so between that peaceful transition and now, are Nigerians feeding better? Are Nigerians going to sleep better? Are Nigerians getting better healthcare? Are Nigerians getting better security? Have Nigeria benefited from that peaceful transition?
So beyond the transition, what are the outcomes? And
so people tend to focus on form, democracy, periodic elections, but you're not asking yourself, between the 7 elections that I've mentioned to you that we had in Nigeria between 1999 and now, how has the life of the average Nigerian been impacted? So you are looking at, let's do comparative analysis. Between the last 50 years, what were the nations that made the most leapfrog? You look at Asia, and then you look at China and all of that. But then you go to the Middle East, you look at your Dubai, you look at your Oman, you look at all of those Arab nations. And you ask yourself, the Arab nations, they are not doing democracy. Many African countries are doing democracy. Between the average Arabian and the average Nigerian, who is enjoying the better slice of the pie? So you say that you have freedom to choose. Choose what? Choose who will steal from you.
The form of government. But
so you're focused on the form, but you're not focused on the substance. The essence of governance is to focus on the deliverables. So, but you are focused on the person must wear mufti, the person must be changed after every 4 years, the person must accept peaceful transition, whether or not the person...
No yardstick to even measure.
Nothing. And so the periodic transmissions, let's go back to wars, guns and votes. I think it was written, is a book written by, I've forgotten the name of the author. But the argument then is that for democracy to work for any country whatsoever, then there are conditions that must be met. Those conditions have not been met in Nigeria. Those conditions have not been met in many African countries.
What are those conditions?
For instance, you will have to have education. I'll give you an instance. For somebody living in any part of Nigeria who had never been to a proper school before, who doesn't know what his next meal is, where his next meal is coming from, who doesn't know where his next bottle of codeine is coming from, talking about drug abusers, and then you tell him that he has a franchise that can be compromised by 500 naira, then what is that franchise to him? Again, before you even make democratic decisions, it is assumed that you have the intellect to understand what is at stake. How many Nigerians can sit down and have presidential candidates discuss their budget and their economic plans? That's why our politicians love to banter. They love to, what in our language they call it corner. They love to, yab at each other. Look at, that's the Dino Malaya kind of politicians. You have to acknowledge the role of, for instance, literacy rates in all of this. For the woman who had not gone to school, who doesn't know what you're talking about? No matter what the media does. In fact, you know what? They will tune off and tune to the media where they are discussing what she can understand. Because she doesn't understand budget. She doesn't understand open budgeting, zero-based budgeting. You're just speaking grammar to the person. So if you don't, according to the book, there are certain conditions. There are, key indicators. For instance, literacy rates must be there. And so Africa has not achieved that literacy rate. And therefore, if you give franchise to an uneducated man, he will carry that franchise, him and the franchise, inside the dustbin.